My name is Dzung Tran, and this is my assignment 3 on cultural intelligence for Unit CUC107 Cultural Intelligence and Capability. David C. Thomas tells us that cultural intelligence enables us to recognize cultural differences through knowledge and mindfulness and gives us an ability to behave appropriately across cross-cultural communication. Risley and Worthley say that there are various meanings for cultural intelligence, such as the two aforementioned, behavior and adaptation. Being culturally intelligent is being able to adapt to an unfamiliar culture and display behaviors considered as intelligent. To improve our cultural awareness about others in the workplace, we must first be aware of our own beliefs, values, and perceptions. But with cultural intelligence, one must be culturally self-aware, which provides a foundation for cultural intelligence, allowing oneself to be culturally competent. Different behaviors and communications may have different meanings in different cultures, but with a quick application of learned experiences, some might be able to pinpoint similarities in some close cultures and notice cultural interactions. By quick adaptation, distinguishing the positives and the negatives of cultural differences, we can allow extensive interaction with other cultures. We're able to notice differences and shared meanings in different cultures, and connect between intelligence and capabilities. Brisley and Worthley have a 4-step procedure to develop cultural intelligence to prepare people in life in different cultures. First is to consider the behaviors of people in their cultural surroundings while overseas, or even in a multicultural group conversation. Secondly, observe the behavioral differences and give reasons as to why there's a difference. Thirdly, determine how those behavioral differences associate with emotional implications of that culture. And lastly, apply the improved understanding to be able to further learn about other behaviors and practices which will increase cultural intelligence. This was my first time in 6 years since I've been on an overseas trip with my family, and our first stop was Changi Airport, Singapore. This was just a stopover because our destination was Vietnam, but as we arrived at the airport, we were inundated with passengers from all over the world. From assumed knowledge, English was one of the most used languages worldwide, so I tried to seek any conversations from other travelers or any signs and announcements around the airport. This was done through active listening and looking for similarities that were a blessing in disguise. I have to admit, being back to this airport was a cultural shock, yet I was able to adapt to the unfamiliar environment. My cousin's wedding was a new experience for me. I've never actually been to a family wedding overseas before, so this would be a good learning experience for me. Since this was my cousin's wedding, I learned that it would be always respectful to greet guests individually by bowing in Vietnam. I was accustomed to verbal greeting over in Australia, but since no one spoke English here, I was forced to adapt and adjust quickly to extensively interact with my family in Vietnam. With Australian and Vietnamese culture, the aforementioned physical forms of greeting is effective across cultures and share the same meaning. But since my Vietnamese vocabulary wasn't up to date, I had to make do with physical forms of greeting such as smiling, bowing, and shaking of hands. In conclusion, cultural intelligence is effectively working across cultures, developing cultural awareness when placed in an unfamiliar environment, and effectively coping with cultural situations in order to avoid alienation.